The park officially closed at sunset, but everyone knew it never truly slept. I worked as the night maintenance guard, tasked with locking gates and checking lights. Most nights were quiet, filled only with wind and distant traffic sounds. But there was one rule every guard followed without question. Never enter the playground after midnight. No one ever explained why, and I never asked. On my third week, the radio crackled at 12:06 a.m. with sudden static. A child's laughter slipped through the noise, soft and playful. I froze, staring toward the playground through the trees. The swings were moving gently, though the night was still. I told myself it was just old metal reacting to cold air. Then I heard footsteps, small and uneven, running across the gravel path. My flashlight shook as I followed the sound against my better judgment. The playground lights flickered on by themselves, bathing everything in pale white glow. The slide gleamed as if recently polished, completely free of rust. The merry-go-round was spinning slowly, perfectly balanced. I called out, my voice echoing far too loudly in the empty park. Laughter answered me again, closer this time. I noticed something wrong with the sandbox. The sand looked smooth, untouched, like no one had stepped there in years. Then footprints appeared, forming slowly as if pressed by invisible feet. They were small, barefoot, and sinking deep into the sand. My radio crackled again, but this time it spoke clearly. "Why don't you come play?" I dropped the radio, heart pounding violently in my chest. The playground gate slammed shut behind me without warning. I rushed toward it, but the path stretched longer with every step. The swings creaked louder, moving faster, almost eagerly. Children began to appear around the playground, standing silently. Their clothes were outdated, soaked, and torn at the edges. Their faces were pale, eyes too dark, mouths smiling far too wide. None of them blinked. One child stepped forward, dragging a foot that didn't bend correctly. He pointed toward the slide, still smiling. "You're it," he whispered. The lights flickered violently, plunging the playground into darkness. When they came back on, the children were closer. I felt cold hands brush against my arms and legs. My flashlight revealed fingerprints appearing on my jacket. The merry-go-round suddenly stopped, then spun violently in the opposite direction. Screams filled the air, layered beneath laughter, echoing endlessly. I tried to run, but the ground felt soft, pulling me downward. The sandbox sand climbed my shoes like living fingers. A sharp whisper slid into my ear, ice cold and patient. "You stayed past midnight." The children surrounded me in a perfect circle. Their smiles faded all at once, replaced by hollow expressions. The playground equipment began to bend inward, closing the space. I felt myself growing lighter, weaker, as if something was draining me. My vision blurred, and the lights dimmed again. I heard the gate open somewhere far away. I screamed for help, but my voice sounded distant and wrong. The children stepped back suddenly, staring behind me. I turned and saw a tall shadow watching from the trees. It didn't move, but the children obeyed it instantly. The shadow raised one long arm and pointed at me. The ground gave way beneath my feet. Darkness swallowed me, cold and endless. I woke up at sunrise, lying near the park entrance. The playground looked old again, rusted and broken. The gate was open just as it should be. I quit my job that morning without explanation. Weeks later, a new guard replaced me. On his first night, he heard laughter after midnight. He followed it just like I did. Security footage later showed something unsettling. The playground was empty the entire night, except for one thing standing near the sandbox. A motionless adult figure facing the swings, wearing a maintenance uniform identical to mine. The figure never moved. It never turned its head. Its shadow stretched far too long across the ground. Children's laughter echoed faintly in the background. The footage cut to static at exactly 12:06 a.m. The new guard was never seen again. The park still closes at sunset. The rule still exists for night staff. Never enter the playground after midnight, because someone is always waiting to play. Everyone in town knew about the man who stood in the park every night without moving. He appeared just after sunset, standing near the center path, facing the broken fountain. No one ever saw him arrive, and no one ever saw him leave. At first, people assumed he was a statue placed there by the city years ago. But statues do not appear only at night, and they do not disappear by morning. I laughed it off until curiosity pushed me to see him for myself. The park was silent when I entered, wrapped in fog and dim orange streetlight. The air felt heavier with every step, like the night itself was watching me. Then I saw him, standing perfectly still between the trees. He was tall, unnaturally thin, wearing dark clothes that blended into the shadows. His back was toward me, and his head was tilted slightly to one side. I waited for him to move, to breathe, to do anything human. He didn't. Leaves blew past his feet, yet his clothes never shifted. I called out to him, my voice sounding weak and distant in the fog. He didn't respond, not even with the smallest reaction. Slowly I stepped closer, my heart pounding louder than my footsteps. The closer I got, the colder the air became, stinging my lungs. I noticed then that his shadow stretched far longer than it should have. Worse, the shadow moved slightly, even though the man did not. My flashlight beam trembled as it reached his back. His clothes looked old, damp, as if soaked in something darker than water. I circled around, desperate to see his face. When I did, my stomach dropped in pure horror. His face was smooth, pale, and completely blank. No eyes, no nose, no mouth, just stretched, lifeless skin. I staggered back, my breath coming out in sharp, panicked gasps. The park lights flickered, and for a moment, everything went dark. When the lights returned, the man was closer. I hadn't heard him move. His head was now tilted toward me, as if he was listening. I turned and ran, my shoes slamming against cracked pavement. Behind me I heard nothing, which somehow felt worse. I stopped near the swings and looked back. He was standing exactly where I had first seen him. My phone buzzed violently in my pocket. The screen lit up with a single message from an unknown number. It read, "Don't let him see you blink." Confusion and fear tangled in my chest as I stared at the man again. I realized then that his head was slowly turning toward my face. The movement was almost unnoticeable, like time itself was stretching. My eyes burned, begging me to blink, to look away. I forced myself to stare, terrified of what would happen if I didn't. A sharp pain shot through my eyes as tears streamed down my face. The park grew unnaturally silent, even the insects gone. My vision blurred for a fraction of a second. When it cleared, he was only a few feet away. His blank face leaned close, reflecting my own terror back at me. A whisper filled my head, though his mouth never moved. "You noticed me," it said, cold and hollow. My legs refused to move as the shadows around us stretched inward. The trees bent slightly as if bowing toward him. I felt an unbearable pressure behind my eyes, urging me to blink. The whisper returned, slower now, almost patient. "Everyone blinks eventually." My eyelids twitched despite my effort to keep them open. For a split second, I lost the battle. When I opened my eyes, the park was empty. The man was gone, along with every sound and shadow. Relief crashed over me as I collapsed to the ground. I laughed shakily, convincing myself it was over. Then I noticed my reflection in a dark puddle beneath me. My eyes were gone, replaced by smooth, pale skin. Panic surged as I tried to scream, but no mouth opened. My body stiffened, muscles locking into place. I felt myself standing without choosing to. My feet moved toward the center path against my will. The park lights flickered once more, sealing the silence. I could no longer feel the cold or fear or time passing. Night after night, people began whispering about a man who never moved. They said he appeared just after sunset, facing the broken fountain. They said his clothes looked dark and damp. They said his shadow moved when he did not. Some tried to get close, driven by curiosity. Others warned them not to stare too long. No one ever saw me arrive. No one ever saw me leave. I stand perfectly still, waiting, watching, hoping the next visitor blinks first. The old park had been abandoned for decades, yet something about it whispered to the living at night. A lone streetlight flickered weakly, casting long, twisted shadows across the cracked pavement. I had dared myself to enter after midnight, curiosity stronger than my sense of fear. Every step I took made the dry leaves crunch like brittle bones beneath my feet. A cold wind brushed past my neck, though the air around me was eerily still. I swore I heard someone breathing just behind the swings. But when I turned, no one was there. The rusty chains of the swings groaned as they swayed gently, though no wind moved them. My flashlight flickered, and in that brief darkness, I felt eyes watching me from every corner. A faint giggle echoed across the empty playground, high-pitched and impossibly childish. My heart thudded as I followed the sound, each step slower than the last. The merry-go-round spun on its own, creaking rhythmically like a heartbeat in the dark. Shadows of trees stretched unnaturally across the ground, twisting into shapes that looked almost human. I felt a damp chill crawl up my spine, as if something unseen brushed past my sleeve. A faint whisper called my name from the direction of the sandbox, soft and sorrowful. My rational mind screamed that it was impossible, but every instinct warned me to run. I stepped closer to the sandbox and froze. Tiny handprints appeared in the sand, wet and fresh. The footprints led to nowhere, disappearing into the earth as if swallowed by the ground itself. I bent down to examine them, and the air grew heavy, thick with a scent of decay. The swing started swinging faster, almost violently, though the night remained still. A shadow darted across the slide, and my stomach churned as I realized it moved against the light. I tried to call out, but my voice caught in my throat like it had been swallowed whole. Somewhere, a rusty gate squealed open, though I had locked it hours ago. The faint giggles multiplied, overlapping, creating a chorus of children who shouldn't exist. I stumbled backward, my flashlight beam catching fleeting glimpses of small figures darting between trees. The swing stopped suddenly, plunging the silence into something far heavier than darkness. I thought I heard whispers in the leaves, voices arguing in a language I didn't know. My shadow stretched unnaturally long, and then, horrifyingly, another shadow stretched in exactly the same way beside me. I spun around, but there was no one there. Just the eerie outline of the playground equipment. A cold, wet hand gripped my ankle, and I stumbled, spinning the flashlight wildly across the ground. The beam caught nothing, yet the sensation of being watched intensified tenfold. From the corner of my eye, I saw a face peering from behind the slide, pale and expressionless. When I looked directly, it vanished, leaving only the still night and my own ragged breathing. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Though I hadn't received a signal in this part of town for years, the screen displayed a single message. "Why are you here?" typed in shaky letters. I dropped the phone in shock, and it slid across the pavement as though pushed by an invisible force. I bent down to pick it up, and my reflection in the screen was not my own. Behind my eyes, I saw pale skin, hollow sockets, and a grin that wasn't mine. A gust of wind extinguished my flashlight, plunging me into near-total darkness. I fumbled for my phone light, hands trembling, the shadows around me pressing closer. The giggles grew louder, closer, circling me like predators just out of sight. I backed toward the swings, knowing I had no escape route. The park feeling infinitely larger than before. The rusted slide shuddered violently, as if something enormous had taken hold of it. I could hear scratching from the bark of the trees, nails dragging along wood with deliberate intent. My flashlight flickered again, and in that split second, I saw dozens of tiny faces staring up at me. They were pale, wet-eyed, expressionless and silent, their mouths opening and closing like fish out of water. I stumbled backward into the sandbox, the soft sand suddenly sticky like it tried to hold me down. The whispers intensified, now forming words I could almost understand, urging me to stay forever. My legs moved on their own, carrying me toward the exit I swore I'd seen minutes ago. The rusty gate groaned, swinging open slowly, revealing darkness far beyond the park. I didn't dare look back, but I could feel dozens of eyes on my back, burning through my clothes. A single swing swung wildly, faster and faster, as if mocking my fear. I heard small footsteps behind me, soft at first, then heavier, dragging across the cracked pavement. I broke into a run, heart hammering, lungs screaming, but the park seemed endless. The streetlight flickered violently, casting strobe-like shadows that played tricks on my mind. I passed the merry-go-round, now spinning furiously, its metal bars bending impossibly. The giggles transformed into screams, shrill and echoing, as if the entire park had come alive. I tripped over a root, sprawling onto the wet ground, mud staining my clothes and hands. I felt a cold breath on my neck, and the whisper came again. "You shouldn't have come." I scrambled to my feet, running faster than I ever had. Yet the exit remained impossibly far. Shadows stretched ahead, forming twisted figures that mimicked my movements with grotesque precision. I tried to scream, but only a strangled whisper emerged, swallowed by the night. The park itself seemed to shift, paths elongating, slides bending, swings moving out of reach. I stumbled over a bench, hearing a child's laughter directly beneath me, though the ground was empty. My flashlight revealed a puddle, reflecting not me, but dozens of pale, hollow-eyed faces screaming silently. The rusted gate slammed shut behind me with a deafening clang, leaving me trapped in the nightmare. I backed into the swings, too terrified to move. As the ground beneath them began to shift and pulse, my phone buzzed again, the screen showing hundreds of messages. Welcome. Stay forever. I looked up, and the trees were now crawling, branches writhing like living fingers toward me. The swings began to sway violently on their own, each squeak louder than a scream. A shadow detached itself from the darkness, tall and thin, stretching impossibly high above the playground. It moved without walking, gliding across the ground, eyes fixed on me with infinite patience. My legs refused to move, and panic clawed at my chest like a living thing. The whispers became chanting, a chorus of dozens of voices reciting my name in unison. The slide shuddered violently, sending a shower of rust and dirt into the air around me. The merry-go-round snapped, the metal bending and groaning as if it had a life of its own. I felt invisible hands push me gently toward the center of the park, toward the waiting shadows. My flashlight flickered one last time, revealing dozens of pale children standing silently around me. They extended their hands, motioning for me to join them, never blinking, never speaking. I screamed, but the sound was swallowed instantly, leaving only silence and darkness. And then, as I fell to my knees, I realized with absolute horror that I had never really left the park at all. The park bench had been empty for years, yet locals whispered about voices that came alive at night. I had never believed them until the night I decided to sit there alone. The air was unnaturally still, as if the world itself held its breath around me. Moonlight cast long shadows across the cracked pavement, illuminating the empty playground. I felt a chill crawl over my spine as I approached the weathered wooden bench. The bench creaked softly as I sat down, though it hadn't moved in decades. A soft sigh drifted past me, like someone exhaling directly into my ear. I froze, staring into the darkness, but nothing moved beyond the weak glow of the streetlight. The wind whispered through the trees, forming words I couldn't quite understand. My flashlight flickered, and in that brief moment, I thought I saw a figure crouching nearby. I blinked and it was gone, leaving only the unsettling silence. A faint, trembling voice whispered my name, and my heart skipped a beat. I scanned the empty park, but no one could possibly be there. The bench groaned beneath me, even though I hadn't shifted my weight. A shadow slithered across the pavement, elongating unnaturally in the moonlight. I heard soft footsteps behind me, pacing slowly, though no one approached. The air grew heavier, pressing down on my chest like invisible hands. A faint tapping echoed from beneath the bench, like nails scratching wood. My rational mind screamed it was impossible, but fear rooted me to the spot. I leaned closer to the bench, trying to see if something was hiding there. The wood shivered beneath my touch, and a whisper breathed, "Sit with us." Goosebumps spread across my skin as the words sank deep into my mind. I pulled back, but the voice followed me, murmuring from every direction. The playground swings creaked, moving slowly though the air was still. Shadows darted between trees, too quick to be human, yet clearly alive. A cold, wet sensation brushed my ankle, and I jumped back in horror. The moonlight caught the edge of the sandbox, revealing small footprints appearing out of nowhere. They led directly toward the bench, stopping abruptly as if paused by unseen hands. My flashlight flickered violently, illuminating dozens of pale, expressionless faces surrounding the park. They stared at me silently, mouths opening and closing without sound. A rustling from the bushes grew louder, rhythmic, deliberate, like something pacing me. I tried to stand, but my legs refused to obey, stiff with sudden terror. The bench shifted slightly beneath me, as if nudging me toward the darkness beyond. I could hear whispers in the leaves, voices chanting something unintelligible but insistent. The air turned icy cold, my breath visible in dense clouds, though it was midsummer. My flashlight illuminated the playground slide, which seemed warped, bending in impossible angles. A faint giggle echoed, high-pitched and unearthly, circling me in the night air. I felt a presence beside me, though nothing was visible. And the whisper continued, "Sit, stay." The swings began to sway violently, chains squeaking like tortured metal. Shadows twisted into grotesque shapes, mimicking human forms, but contorted and wrong. I tried to move again, heart hammering, but my feet stuck to the pavement as if glued. A figure appeared on the bench opposite me, featureless and pale, its head tilting unnaturally. I blinked and it was closer, its presence pressing down on me with invisible weight. I heard dozens of whispers now, overlapping, calling my name in a chorus of the dead. The figure raised a hand slowly, pointing directly at me, though it had no eyes to see. I tried to scream, but no sound emerged, swallowed by the oppressive night. My phone buzzed, screen lighting up, though I had no reception here. The message displayed, "You shouldn't be here. Stay forever." I dropped it in panic, but it floated inches above the ground, trembling as if held by invisible fingers. The bench shifted again, nudging me toward the center of the park, toward the waiting shadows. Small footsteps echoed behind me, circling, pacing, keeping perfect rhythm with my heart. I looked to the swings, now spinning furiously, throwing off shadows that seemed alive. The figure on the bench leaned forward impossibly, a grin forming that no human could have. I felt a cold breath on my neck, whispering, "We've been waiting." Panic surged, but my body refused to run, trapped in invisible chains of terror. Shadows detached themselves from the trees, writhing and slithering across the ground. The playground lights flickered and died, plunging me into near-total darkness. The whispers became chanting, a low rhythmic sound that vibrated through my bones. I stumbled backward, colliding with the bench as unseen hands brushed past my arms. The figure rose, taller now, stretching beyond human limits, towering over the swings. My flashlight flickered one last time, catching dozens of pale children appearing silently around me. They didn't move, didn't breathe, yet their presence pressed heavily against my mind. A faint giggle transformed into a scream that echoed, distorted inside my skull. I tried to turn and run, but the paths in the park shifted, elongating, twisting impossibly. The benches around me groaned and bent as if alive, reaching toward me with wooden limbs. I fell to my knees, gasping, the shadows leaning closer, surrounding, pressing, watching. My phone screen lit again, dozens of messages scrolling. "You are ours. Forever." I realized I wasn't sitting on the bench alone. I had never been alone. The figure whispered directly into my mind now, voice merging with the chorus of shadows. The swings and slides moved violently, like the park itself had a heartbeat pulsing with dark life. I felt invisible hands push me toward the center, toward the waiting, silent faces. The night grew heavier, pressing down, the air thick with cold, damp decay. I tried to resist, screaming in my mind, but no force in the world could pull me back. My reflection in a puddle showed dozens of hollow-eyed faces staring back, mine among them. The pale children reached forward, hands extending unnaturally, inviting me to join. I struggled, but my body no longer obeyed, frozen in the grip of unseen forces. The shadows enveloped me completely, extinguishing the world I had known. The bench creaked one final time, and the whispers fell silent, leaving only darkness. I understood with a cold clarity that the park didn't just trap people, it claimed them. And as I vanished into the black void, I knew I would never leave, and the bench would wait for the next visitor.